Hey guys, it's Mike here, and this video is going to be another follow-up on a series that I've started doing on this channel, in which I've been taking a look at who the best main antagonists in each respective Dragon Ball series is. I began with Dragon Ball Super, and then I went back in time to Dragon Ball Z. But now in this video, we're going to take a step even further back, to the original Dragon Ball. So in this video, I'm going to discuss that topic of who is the best main antagonist in the original Dragon Ball. Make sure to subscribe to this channel and enable notifications so you can see all of my content right away when it comes out. Alright guys, so as you can see, just like the previous two times, I have a poll over here on the channel, on my community tab, which you can see right here, in which I asked you guys who is the best main antagonist in the original Dragon Ball. And it seems like this has kind of become a recurring theme where one villain, or one antagonist in this case, gets an overwhelming majority of votes, and in this case, it seems that for the most part, the popular vote is going towards King Piccolo / Piccolo Jr. Now, to explain this list, and I guess all the other ones a little bit better, in terms of who the main antagonists are, when I say main antagonist, I mean the real big bad, or the real main obstacle who is behind everything that's kind of causing all the problems for Goku and his friends. So, for example, some of these people aren't even really fighters, like Emperor Pilaf or Commander Red. And we see more powerful fighters in those arcs, like for example Yamcha, who actually beats Goku the first time he fights him, and even then Goku is hungry, which was his weakness back then. And then during the Red Ribbon Army arc, we have Commander Red, but a lot of people will likely say, what about Tao Pai Pai or Mercenary Tao? Well, he was an awesome side villain, but he wasn't the main villain of the arc. That was Commander Red, the person who ran the Red Ribbon Army, at least until Toriyama retconned that Jiro is actually the leader, or whatever he was behind the shadows, but that's another topic for another day. So as usual, I'm going to run through each of the antagonists, and then I'm going to get to your responses down here. So let's first start off with the first main antagonist in Dragon Ball, and that is Emperor Pilaf. Now, Emperor Pilaf, like I said, is the first real villain and antagonist in Dragon Ball in the first arc, in which Goku and Bulma are hunting for the Dragon Balls in order to get their wishes granted. Yamcha joins in, Puar, Oolong, you know, the whole Journey to the West thing really in its purest form at that point, before it became more of what Dragon Ball really has become since then. And Pilaf's main goal was to use the Dragon Balls in order to become the king or ruler of the Earth, you know, Emperor of the Earth, I guess you could say, Emperor Pilaf. So it was a typical world domination storyline, and Pilaf, of course, being the first main villain of Dragon Ball, and really during a time in which Dragon Ball was a lot more comedic, is himself kind of bumbling and comedic relief. He, as well as Shu and Mai, as we would come to see, are kind of incompetent in many ways. I mean, they're able to search out the Dragon Balls, and they're able to go about creating robots and various other things, but they're always foiled by Goku, and even when they seal Goku in Pilaf's castle, he's still able to escape because the roof of the room that they're trapped in is clear, and Goku's able to see the full moon, becoming an Ozaru and smashing through Pilaf's castle. And finally, when Pilaf is able to get his wish on the Dragon Balls, Oolong jumps in the way and wishes for the most comfortable pair of underwear, or the best panties in the world, basically, and completely ruins everything for Pilaf and once again denies him his wish. But of course, as we would see throughout Dragon Ball, Pilaf would go on to become a recurring villain, a recurring antagonist that would try and defeat Goku and try and get his wish, but never really was able to do so. And he mostly just disappeared in Dragon Ball Z, and he only really showed up in Dragon Ball GT briefly, and then in Dragon Ball Super, for a lot more than I'm sure a lot of fans expected. Coming up next is Jackie Chun, who is, of course, Master Roshi in disguise, and I think that he has a really good argument, because this is really Goku and Krillin's master, the first real master that they have, not counting Grandpa Gohan, and it's a really interesting story in which we see that Roshi is training them. He sees just how powerful they are and how powerful they can become, their potential as martial artists, and in order to try and keep them on the right path, in order to try and keep it so they don't just give up because they're the best already when they win the tournament, Master Roshi enters the tournament as Jackie Chun, which of course is a play on Jackie Chan, who Toriyama was incredibly inspired by when creating Dragon Ball. And I always really liked the 21st tournament, and I feel like this is where Dragon Ball really got good. And a lot of that is because of Jackie Chun and his relationship with Goku and Krillin, but then we also see, things like him versus Nam, and we see that Nam is a character who is only fighting so that he can supply his village with supplies such as water. He comes from a very desolate place. However, even though Roshi beats him as Jackie Chun, he supplies him with the means to give his people water, so even though he is Goku's main opposition in this arc, as well as Krillin's, making him the main antagonist, at the same time he is still obviously Master Roshi, he's still a good guy, and the reason why he is opposing Goku and Krillin is so that once he defeats them, which he eventually does in some awesome fights by the way, he can keep them on that path of improvement. So I think that all of this really ties into giving him a good argument for that top position. But coming up next would be Tien Shinhan, or Ten Shinhan, who also follows suit in that general theme, because as we see, Tien represents Goku's first real kind of villain turned rival, somebody who would be repeated with Piccolo and with Vegeta and even with other people as we've seen with Dragon Ball Super. Tien was a student of the Crane Hermit, who used to be friends with Master Roshi going back to when they trained under Master Mutaito during the King Piccolo Wars. However, the two of them became diametrically opposed, and a lot of that came down to the fact that the Crane Hermit was training Tien and Chaozu to basically become assassins. And on top of that, Tien also was a student and disciple of Tao Pai Pai, or Mercenary Tao, who is the brother of the Crane Hermit, and of course, as we know, was an enemy of Goku. And as Tien finds out that Goku defeated and quote-unquote killed him in this arc, one of his big goals becomes trying to get revenge upon Goku to try and avenge his master. And of course, this leads to him entering the tournament in order to prove that he is the greatest martial artist, but also to get his revenge. So Tien had a lot of connections to Goku and those he had fought in the series before that, and he also had a really interesting character arc in which Master Roshi as Jackie Chun was trying to teach him the real way of living and how to be a good person, and that he didn't need to become a killer like Tao, and that he didn't need to be ruthless. And we saw this play out as Tien fought Master Roshi as Jackie Chun, which actually led to Roshi giving up their fight, and then after that point, Roshi stating that his purpose in the tournament had pretty much come to an end, because not only do Goku and Krillin look like they're just going to continue to improve and continue as martial artists even if they win the tournament, but Tien could basically replace Roshi as the character who would be able to keep them on that path, who would be their greatest opposition, and someone who would provide a great challenge and rivalry for Goku. Although, as we find out, that doesn't really happen after this arc. But Tien, of course, goes on to become a crucial member of the Z Fighters, and someone who even today is a fan favorite, so I definitely think based upon his arc, based upon what happens in the 22nd tournament, based upon the awesome fights that he has, such as with Goku, that definitely makes him a great contender for the best main antagonist in the original Dragon Ball. Now up next is Commander Red, and like I said before, Commander Red is the leader of the Red Ribbon Army, so I guess basically everything that happens with the Red Ribbon Army itself is attributable to him, which includes things such as Mercenary Tao, which includes Muscle Tower with Colonel Silver, the conflict with Blue in the Pirates Cave, and pretty much everything else that happens surrounding the Red Ribbon Army until Dragon Ball Z. But again, Commander Red isn't a fighter, he's more of just like a human antagonist whose own selfish goals are causing everything to come about in the first place. He's basically like a Bond villain while simultaneously being symbolic of 20th century dictators. After all, his name is Commander Red, and Reds are associated with communists, and his own soldiers and army are also very akin to the Nazis, especially with the red ribbon armbands that they wear around their uniforms. But even though he is the main antagonist here and the leader behind this big imposing Red Ribbon Army, his own goals are basically a punchline. Because what he wants to wish on the Dragon Balls is so that he can become taller. Not so that he can rule the world, not so that he can conquer everything in sight, not so that he can destroy all of his enemies. He wants to be taller because he's really short. And he thinks that he would need to be tall to really rule the world. So it is kind of funny, but at the same time, when his whole motivation boils down to a punchline, it kind of takes a lot of the tension out of there, and it doesn't really lead to being a great main antagonist, because pretty much all of his minor antagonists, pretty much all of his sub-villains are better than he is. And finally, that leaves us with one last antagonist, and that is King Piccolo and Piccolo Jr., who I have included here as one person because they pretty much are. But anyway, starting with Demon King Piccolo, he was the evil side of Kami, the god of the earth, who split himself in two so that he could take over the role of god, whereas the Demon King Piccolo came to the earth and waged war upon it in the Piccolo Wars, destroying most of the human population until he was eventually sealed away by Master Roshi's master, Mutaito. And his whole concept of a character and his whole background is very mythological and a lot more interesting than your typical run-of-the-mill, I want to take over the world bad guy. Piccolo was really the first truly evil character from that perspective. After all, he was the Demon King and kind of viewed as like a Satan-esque character. But not Mr. Satan, of course, who, funny enough, is a little bit more helpful. But when King Piccolo showed up, there was really a true shift in the tone and the narrative, and the stakes and the tension really increased. And not only that, but important characters we had seen throughout the series started to die off. First off, we saw Krillin die after he was killed by Tambourine, who is one of the children of Piccolo, and then we saw Master Roshi die when he failed to seal King Piccolo away with the Mafuba. And then not even Tien, the winner of the 22nd tournament, was able to beat him, and it all really came down to Goku, who we had a fake out of him being killed earlier in the arc. But of course he survived due to the help of the Dragon Balls. And speaking of the Dragon Balls, King Piccolo was also the first villain to actually assemble the Dragon Balls and get his wish on them, which was for eternal youth. Although in retrospect, I'm sure that all of us can really say that maybe he should have wished for eternal youth and immortality, because, you know, eternal youth isn't going to make much of a difference when a kid flies right through your sternum. But after he was destroyed by Goku, this led to the creation of Piccolo Jr., who was born through an egg and was the reincarnation of King Piccolo. However, he still retained the power and in fact got even more powerful, and also retained much of, if not all of, King Piccolo's memories. And in fact, even during the tournament, still claimed to be him. But as we saw from the beginning, this Piccolo wasn't really as pure evil as King Piccolo, especially in the anime version in which we saw him saving people from falling debris, and he was even raised partially by humans who found his egg. But this Piccolo still seeked world domination, he still was overall evil, and he still wanted to get revenge upon Goku, and he enacted this whole plan at the 23rd Martial Arts Tournament. And before this tournament, we actually saw Goku training with Kami in the Heavenly Realm, or the Lookout, and we saw Goku grow into an adult and become far more powerful. But before he could face off with Piccolo, Kami faced off with Piccolo in the body of a human being. But when Kami tried to use the Mafuba to capture Piccolo, he himself was captured when Piccolo did the reverse Mafuba in a really cool scene, in which Piccolo captured him in a little jar and then actually swallowed the jar. However, as we would see, Goku would go on to fight him for the fate of the Earth and eventually defeat him. However, instead of killing him, Goku realized that Piccolo and Kami shared a connection, and he would also be killing Kami. And in fact, when Kami went to do it himself, Goku spared Piccolo and even gave him a senzu bean, which of course was something that was again done in the Cell Saga in a very infamous scene in which he gave it to Cell. But overall, Piccolo was definitely the biggest threat that Goku and his friends had faced up until that point, a mythological villain, and perhaps the most iconic villain in the original Dragon Ball. But before I make my decision about who the best main antagonist is, I'm going to look at your comments, and let's see what you guys think. So first up, King Piccolo / Piccolo Jr. I find the best villains are the ones that create change in the protagonists and force them to grow. King Piccolo had the most personal stakes with our hero by killing his surrogate family, and was the first person to really make Goku swear revenge without showing any mercy like he did with Tao. He truly brought out a darker, more vengeful side of our hero and served as a catalyst for the growth of his character that would continue into the 23rd tournament and early Z. Yeah, I definitely agree there. You could see that there's some significant changes to Goku during his whole battle and conflict with not only King Piccolo, but then Piccolo Jr. And Piccolo Jr. had a rivalry which was more similar to Goku and Vegeta and pretty brutal, as opposed to just purely hating him, such as the relationship between King Piccolo and Goku. Commander Red, interesting. For me, it's Commander Red, not only because of him, but also because of the army, the generals, the introduction of Tao, and a major part of DBZ with the androids and Cell. Yeah, like I said, Commander Red was the leader of everything, until of course it was retconned to be Dr. Gero later on behind the scenes. But anyway, you could say that pretty much everything, such as Tao, is the responsibility of General Red. So if you're just talking about the Red Ribbon Army and those who are associated with them in general, that's a good argument to make too. Where's Tao? Well, like I said, he's not a main antagonist and shouldn't be on this list, but maybe I'll do something with the best side villains in the future. Commander Red, Tao Pai Pai was the best, as in the Red Ribbon Saga as well. Piccolo Daimao Saga in the manga was a mess, but the anime improved it. But I like the fact that Red wanted to get taller as a main villain. But yeah, like I said before, that does kind of turn his whole character into just one kind of punchline. So even though it was very Toriyama-esque, especially in Dragon Ball, I mean, you gotta remember this guy started out with gag manga, and Dragon Ball started out that way too. But ultimately, I feel like it doesn't make him as compelling as, say, some of the others around him. King Piccolo, Piccolo Jr., he had a huge impact on the show. Without him, Piccolo would never have met Goku, and Gohan wouldn't tap into his full potential. I mean, obviously, it would depend on how Toriyama would write that, and, you know, obviously things would be way different, but that could be a video for another time. King Piccolo, Tien, antagonist or villain? Why is everyone picking Piccolo? I mean, I guess that Piccolo is just viewed as that iconic, you know, and he's probably the most memorable, especially if people haven't really seen Dragon Ball in a little bit. Emperor Pilaf, King Piccolo again, Piccolo Daimao was the first serious villain of the series and really set the tone for what was to come in Z. Yeah, I talked about this with Mr. Fusion, and you could really say that the Z feeling or tone and kind of the way that it's set up kind of began in the anime around the point of when King Piccolo showed up. I mean, that's when everything got darker, a lot more serious, people started to die off, and I think in a big way that also is because of the fact that somewhere around there is when the showrunners and people working on Saint Seiya came over to Dragon Ball, and that's a big reason why we have Dragon Ball Z. But you can check out his panel, I think, on his channel, Mr. Fusion. King Piccolo, how is this even a debate? I mean, people have different opinions. What a shock. King Piccolo, tough, but I think he raised all the stakes, and the redemption arc makes this victory very earned. Not a slight to any other antagonists. Emperor Pilaf, interesting. He was technically the first to summon Shenron in the entire franchise, plus because of him we saw the Great Ape for the first time. Yeah, that is true. King Piccolo. So as you could see, most people are going with King Piccolo. There's some Tiens, there's some Commander Reds, interestingly, even some Pilafs, but ultimately it is mostly coming down to Piccolo and Piccolo Jr. So I would have to say that Piccolo is probably the most iconic villain of the original Dragon Ball, and like I said, he really is the first truly evil villain, the true really villainous villain who is that ultimate threat, that mythological creature that Goku has to defeat, and then he has to defeat his offspring, but it sets up stuff to come in Dragon Ball Z or the future beyond the original Dragon Ball, with Goku sparing him and trying to see him more as his own rival. And Piccolo would go on to become one of the most interesting characters in the franchise, with one of the most interesting arcs. So ultimately I feel like I'm going to agree here with the popular opinion and say that King Piccolo or Piccolo Jr. is the best main antagonist of the original Dragon Ball. But let me know your own thoughts down below in the comments. Do you agree with this or do you disagree? Who do you think is the best main antagonist in Dragon Ball? Also, if you're new to this channel, then make sure to subscribe and enable notifications so you can see all of my content right away when it comes out. And if you like this video, then make sure to stick around, because there's a lot more to come in the future.
Yeah, and you better subscribe, enable those damn notifications.